Well, it's an honor to be here with you this morning. Thank you very much. So as Pat mentioned, I've been in the field for a long time, the dispute resolution field, even before I got out to California. And let me just say, I knew about PCRC before I ever talked to anyone who works at PCRC. PCRC has a reputation across the country as being one of the most dynamic and active and well-run community conflict management programs in the country. And now that I've gotten out here and actually seen who's involved, their reputation is well-deserved. So you all should be very, very proud of what you've done here. This is an amazing organization, and I'm delighted to be on the board, and thank you for the honor of being here this morning. So I'm going to keep my remarks short. I know it's a breakfast meeting. We've all got a lot to do today. My friend David is actually going to do the slides. Forgive me, this is a crutch that we use at eBay all the time. I got to have my slides, but they gave me the LCD projector. So as Pat mentioned, my particular nook and cranny of the dispute resolution field is online dispute resolution. So that's how do we use technology in a way to help people resolve their disputes. And that's not just on eBay. It's not just online internet disputes. There are people who are using ODR. My wife calls it the odor field. So I don't make perfumes and colognes. It's online dispute resolution. But there are people who are using online dispute resolution to do multi-party environmental disputes, to do ceasefire monitoring in conflict zones around the world. There are a lot of different, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So David, let's go to the next slide. This is my funky slide technology here, so hopefully it'll all work. And David is my manual slide advancer. So at eBay and PayPal, actually, I've been out doing this work for the last 7 years, pretty much. And we have a lot of disputes. You can go to the next slide, David. I like to think of eBay and PayPal kind of like a giant digital city. So in some ways, I think what we're doing at eBay is we're running the PCRC for this digital city. Maybe it's the ECRC, the eBay Conflict Resolution Center. But, and actually, if you go to the next slide, at eBay and PayPal, we have more than 240 million users all around the world. All right, next one. Now, if you were to count up all of those people as citizens, we'd actually be the 5th largest country in the world. I think we just overtook Indonesia. No, we overtook Brazil, and we're gunning for Indonesia. I think that's where we are. So that's pretty big. It's very difficult to wrap your brain around. And actually, next slide, David. So we generate more than 60 million disputes a year. Now, that's a lot of disputes. Now, some of those disputes are very, very simple, easy to resolve. They don't really involve fraud or anything like that. Some of them are more complicated, a small sliver. But let me just say that this is still a tiny, tiny component of the volume on eBay. And we're able to resolve amicably the vast majority of these cases. But I'm not even going to spend a lot of time talking about the eBay example, although it is interesting to tease out some of the similarities between what we do at eBay and what happens at PCRC. What I want to talk about today is who's going to live in this new digital city that we've built, this gorgeous new virtual city up in the clouds. Go to the next slide. Well, it's our kids. We have all worked together here in Silicon Valley. We've built this whole virtual space, this virtual world. That we've never had to inhabit before, and it's growing very rapidly. And these kids here, you go to the next, click forward, they are what we call digital natives. These are kids who have actually been born into a world where this online existence is a day-to-day element for them. It's something, look at all these kids on cell phones. You probably know, working with kids, it's great that I'm following the family engagement folks because you're seeing the way this technology is transforming our schools. Pretty much everybody in this room, we're what we call a digital immigrant. We were born into a world that didn't have this technology. So we've been introduced to it downstream. We've been introduced to it later. Our kids are growing up with this. So they speak the language of this technology fluently as a first language. So you can go to the next slide. So I want to share just a couple statistics from a recent survey that was done by the Pew Center on Internet and American Life. And this data, this is from 2009. It was conducted both in Spanish and in English, and it was a pretty large survey, so they gathered a lot of interesting information. So let's go to the next one. So who is online? Look at the percentage of different populations that actually participate. Now, we're all pretty wired in the adult world, through our works. We get emails, all this, email addresses, all of that. But kids, 93% of teens between 12 and 17 are online. And for young adults, 18 to 29, same thing, 93%. And the quote from the survey is, internet use is near ubiquitous among teens and young adults. All right, next one. More so than for their elders, the internet is a central and indispensable element in the lives of teens and young adults. A huge component of social interactions, of engagement with peers, of research. Kids don't even go to the library anymore. They can get it all on the internet. Next slide. Now here's the one, this is very interesting, social networks. I'd be interested, how many people here in the room are on Facebook? Raise your hand. Oh, that's pretty good. But there are a lot of hands that didn't go up. Look at this statistic. This is just in the past couple of years. In November 2006, only about half of teens that were online, used social networking. In 2008, 65% did. And now 73% did. So think about how fast that change is happening. And social networking is a very, it's a new technology. And a lot of us, we look and go, oh my gosh, how can you share all this information online? Things are changing pretty quickly. All right, next slide. The other thing that's interesting is digital devices in cell phones. So it's not just a matter of a computer in somebody's bedroom or a laptop that's wirelessly connected at home. What you see is younger kids are getting cell phones. And these cell phones are not really just for making phone calls. They enable people to access the internet. They enable full engagement with online communities. And actually, certain populations, the majority of their access to the internet goes through these types of devices. And you can see 58% of 12-year-olds now own a cell phone, up from 18% just a couple years ago. All right, next slide. Cell phone ownership is nearly ubiquitous among teens and young adults. And much of the growth in adoption is in the youngest populations. So, what does all this mean? Why am I sharing these statistics with you? We're talking about conflict resolution here today. What I'm saying is, our kids are being transformed by this technology, and a huge component of their lives is taking place in this new online world. So, next slide. And what this means is that the conflict that these kids have in their lives, with their peers, with their families, it can follow them online. It can go into this new space where they're developing these identities. And many of us, we don't understand these online spaces as well as our kids do. We don't populate them as thoroughly as our kids do. So the challenge is for us to extend the work that we're doing into these online spaces so that we can continue to help kids. So next slide. So we've all heard the news stories about cyberbullying. There's some horrible examples of kids who are harassed online. There was a terrible example of the mother of a peer of a girl who actually pretended to be someone online, a younger teen, and harassed a girl, and she ended up committing suicide. These stories get media attention, and I don't mean to be alarmist, but the fact is, cyberbullying is a real problem, and it's something that I think we need to pay attention to in all of the various circles that we work in to be aware of, because it gives 24-hour access to the victim. It's not like you can leave school and go home and be in a safe zone, especially when you have a cell phone that just can keep ringing and ringing and ringing, and giving you short text messages. The other thing is, a lot of times this harassment happens in environments that are open to the public. So the humiliation is even greater for these populations that are so sensitive to that. And then the other thing is that cyberbullying can really make the victim feel isolated in a way that makes them less likely to go get help. So this just identifies some of the vulnerabilities that come with kids using this technology. But let's go to the next slide, David. But I don't want to be, I'm a nerd. I love technology. At eBay and PayPal, technology is used to do some amazing things and empower small business people and create opportunity for folks all over the world. I think technology is merely a communications channel. It's not good or bad in and of itself. And there's an opportunity for all of us to engage this technology and combat some of the vulnerabilities that come with it. So what I'm asking all of you to do is take some time to learn about these things. And at PCRC too, I think PCRC definitely understands that. I like this picture because you see the kids engaging with the technology, but their parent is there too and is very engaged. And it's not considered an isolating activity. It can be something the family does together. So the other thing that's very interesting is when it's done right, technology can really help to resolve conflicts. And that's what the online dispute resolution field is about. It can be used to exacerbate some problems, but it can also be used in creative ways to address those same problems. And the other thing is people use technology to presume they can find easy answers to problems. But that's not the way it works with things like conflict. People are just as complicated on either side of a laptop or either side of a cell phone as they are when they're interacting face to face. So, last slide. I want to acknowledge that PCRC has fully embraced this, and the time that I spent on the board definitely has underscored this with me. PCRC has got some great programs that are integrating some of these lessons, the schools program, the respectful classroom, the family engagement, peer helping, even youth violence prevention, doing work with gangs. Because these kids have such a huge element of their lives that's online, it's important that we all understand that we need to engage that if we're going to fully tackle the problems that PCRC is staking out. And parents do need to educate themselves and be engaged with your kids. So even if the technology turns you off a little bit, it's worth it to invest some time to figure it out. So I just want to say it's a real honor to be with all of you here, and if anybody has any questions, please come up, and thank you very much.